So, are you about to Netflix and chill? Because if you are, you might want to check your bank account first. Uh, we have a situation on our hands with Netflix that is something not everybody is completely happy with, which is yet another price increase that is coming, I think, in the next month for anybody who currently has a Netflix subscription. Um, it is the second jump, I think, this year. I think there was a small jump in January, and it's part of a longer rollout. I think they've actually increased their prices. This may be the third time in a year. I'm not sure, 100% sure, but I know the price, the monthly subscription price for the streaming service has slowly but surely started to creep up, and we're starting to see now regular price bumps in $1 and $2 increments happen on a fairly regular basis, and not a lot of people are real excited about that. Now, I would say the average person like myself realizes that Netflix is this expanding, growing media platform, and obviously they can't be price locked, and I wouldn't expect that. I always thought that I got a lot of value out of my original $6 and $7 subscription cost back in the day, and I'm an OG Netflix user. I go back to when it was just DVDs in the mail. So I always thought it was a good value, and when they started asking for like $1, $2 more, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. You're expanding your service in relation to what additional, monthly costs are coming in, so that I'm fine with that. But now it's starting to get, it's starting to become fairly regular. As a matter of fact, I will read you an email that was sent to all Netflix subscribers, I think yesterday or the day before, where they basically roll out ahead of time the price increase. So let's actually take a look at that. So you see this here. I got this in my email, I think, yesterday. And I'll just go ahead and read it to you. It's from Netflix. It says, "More of what you like. Hi, Jason." Because, me and Netflix are on first name basis. We're tight like that. Dave's my homie. It says, "We hope you have been enjoying your Netflix membership. We are writing to let you know about an upcoming change. Your monthly price is increasing to $15.99 on Friday, May the 17th, 2019. So that is almost exactly 1 month from yesterday. Actually, it is 1 month from yesterday. Today's the 18th. And they say, why? Well, we are hard at work improving Netflix so that you can have even more great TV shows and movies to enjoy. Here's to watching what you want, when you want, where you want." And then it just goes on, talks about how, you can always change your plan and you can cancel at any time, and blah, blah, blah. So, obviously for some people, that might be a deal breaker. We're getting into a situation where the service now is for the higher end HD content. It's almost doubled in cost. But that's over about a 10-year period. So that's not too terrible considering the current streaming landscape. The problem is, and I think what's worrying a lot of people is this going to start increasing exponentially? Okay, because it's $1 and $2 a shot every time they go up. It's $1 to $2 increments. And I personally, I think I probably have the biggest Netflix package there is. That's what she said. I think it's one of those situations where I think I have it on multiple devices and I have the 4K content. So not everybody is going to be at $16 a month. John in the chat said DVDs was the way to go. Paid $18 a month for the Ultra HD. Seems like a good value. Yeah, I mean, I remember that. That was my introduction to Netflix. I was one of those people that was getting 4 and 5 discs in the mail per week. I mean, I was blowing through a ridiculous amount of movies back in the day. And also, let's not forget, streaming absolutely is what killed the physical media rental industry. I even wore my OG Blockbuster shirt as kind of a shout out, a tribute to them. Fun fact, This is a vintage Blockbuster shirt from like the late 90s when I was a cashier at Blockbuster. So it's probably worth money. You can hit me up on Instagram if you want to buy that. I'm selling it. I don't have an Instagram. And I bought this at Meijer like 2 days ago, so I'm lying. But yeah, John, I totally remember the DVD in the mail situation. But now, the streaming, getting back to that, there's two problems with that. If you are enjoying the Netflix service and you're enjoying all this awesome content they are pushing out, you have to accept the fact that they are going to have to start charging more, because this money that they need to use or they need to acquire to push out this new original content, it doesn't fall out of the sky. And they can't do it if they're charging people $6 a month for their service. It's just not going to happen. I think I read that they have about an $8 to $10 million budget that they are pushing out just for original content. They are planning to make, I think they've already pulled in like $1 billion just from their service. But in addition to charging more for their service, I think they said that they're going to go in debt for like they're going to borrow like another $1 billion on top of that to feed this machine, because they're going to continue trying to build it and expand upon it. And it's also one of those things where Netflix is now, because of their expansion, they're not just, as John was mentioning, they're not just a DVD by mail service. They're not just a digital streaming service. They're kind of they're a Hollywood competitor now. They have won Oscars for their content. It's becoming it's ridiculous now. It's gotten the attention of people in Hollywood, so much so that people like Steven Spielberg and others are actually pissed off that Netflix is even considered in the same category as traditional cinema. But it's legitimately competing. So you have to assume that these services are going to continue to rise. Tim in the chat says, what I don't understand is Netflix is a couple seasons behind other streaming sites. Yeah, that's kind of a pain in the sense that, I know what you mean. I've tried to watch some things on there that I was hoping was current, and it's not. I think one of the issues I ran into most recently with that, Tim, was the fact that I think it was Better Call Saul. I hadn't watched it originally at launch, and I wanted to get caught up on it, and I don't think the most current season was on it for a while. I think it was almost like you had to wait till the on-demand or the live version on cable finished its run, and then there was a grace period, and then it changed over to streaming. I would assume, Tim, the reason that is because the cable companies are probably striking a deal with some of these production houses to say, look, we don't want the stuff you're creating for us to show up on streaming at the same time or 2 days later. So you have to give us an exclusive window. That way people still stay on cable, because otherwise people would just cut cable altogether and they just go to streaming. So there's still a certain degree of needing cable TV right now if you want to stay current and live on stuff and watch it in real time. I'm assuming that has to do, what you're talking about there in the seasons being behind, it probably has to do with that. But here's a situation. A lot of people are worried that the streaming service, because of the fact they're pushing out so much big budget content now, that the monthly service is going to keep rising, and it's going to become unreasonable or something that people don't feel like they want to pay for anymore. Now, the number one way that will you can counteract that is the fact that we need competition in the marketplace. Netflix for a long time was kind of the top of the mountain. They were the king of the mountain. They were it in the world of streaming. As more and more streaming services continue to roll out, you are going to see, obviously, competition, but you're going to see competitiveness in the marketplace. That is going to help halt that continuing rise of Netflix bumping their monthly service up and up and up. So eventually you will see kind of a cap as to where Netflix sees that they can't really reasonably charge any more for their service. Otherwise, they're going to start losing people. You might even see some of the packages go down, and they start providing maybe partial packages and limiting the service in order to give you cheaper monthly subscription costs. Now, while that may sound good, and saving money is always a good thing, I'm all for it, it's a double-edged sword. It's a classic be careful what you wish for scenario. Because having more streaming options in the marketplace, while it might make Netflix cheaper, and your Netflix and chill may be a little more affordable, it's going to actually open a huge can of worms. It's actually going to be a freaking nightmare for the streaming landscape. Because the more streaming options you have, the more subscriptions you have to pay for, and the more our content is just scattered amongst these different platforms. There has got to be, right now, there has to be at least 5 or 6 active streaming platforms, and then several currently in development that are on the way. I mean, just to rattle a couple of them off here. I mean, I know that you got Netflix, you got Hulu, you got Amazon Prime, you got Sling, which is not as popular, but people use it. You have YouTube wanting you to pay for content. You obviously have companies like HBO wanting they give you separate options. If you want to watch Game of Thrones and you don't have cable, you can get HBO Go, or it's either Go or Now. I can never remember which one of those it is. HBO Go, I think, is the one that comes with your cable service, and HBO Now is the one that you can get if you don't have cable, or it's reversed. I can't remember. Somebody can tell me in the chat. And then you have, obviously, Showtime does the same thing. They have a Halo series, the live action. We always wanted a Halo movie. It looks like we're not going to get a movie, but we get a live action series. I think it's coming to Showtime, which means they're going to want you to have, if you want to watch Halo, you're going to have to get the Showtime subscription. I personally, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I've been dying to see the new Star Trek series. I don't have CBS All Access, and it's exclusive on there. So that means that's another service that I have to get. Not to mention the fact that Apple has one that they're rolling out, and the big one, the huge one, is Disney. Disney has a streaming service for all of their content, which means all of their backlog of Disney movies, plus all the acquisitions that they've been buying up with, Lucasfilm, the Star Wars franchise, and the Marvel movies, and now Fox, and now you're going to have The Simpsons. I mean, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. It is redonkulous. How can I, just a regular Joe who just wants to have access to content on the fly, on demand, I can't juggle this many subscription services, to say nothing of the fact that maybe I could afford all of them. I mean, maybe if they're all averaging $5-6 a piece, I mean, if I had, 5 or 6 different subscription services, and I just say, okay, look, I'm going to cancel my cable, and I'm going to take $40 a month or $50 a month, and I'm going to sink it into streaming services. I could probably do that, and that's not going to break the bank, but I don't want to do that. That's too much. It's getting complicated. It's getting messy, and that is kind of the problem that I don't think a lot of us anticipated. We were all about cutting cable. I know people like, me. I'd be the first one to tell you that I'm not completely happy with my cable service. There's a lot about it that annoys the crap out of me, but I still have it because it's convenient, and there's things on there there's a lot about it that makes my life easier. Having 10 different streaming services does not make my life easier. That's getting crazy, and it's only going to get worse. And I don't see the solution. I don't think that there's ever going to be a universal streaming service. I don't think a lot of these companies that I just mentioned are ever going to get under the same banner. So I think it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get more splintered, and I really don't know what the landscape's going to look like. So you may see your monthly subscriptions for things like Netflix and other things continue to drop, but with that, in direct relation to that, you might see more services that you then have to sign up for. So it's kind of a pick your poison problem that we're in. It's also important to remember that the US only makes up about half, or maybe less than half, of Netflix's total streaming audience. You would think that we would be like the number one supporter, but we're not. We're actually about less than half. So it'll be interesting to see how the overseas market factors into that. Obviously, the infrastructure there is not the same as a company or as a country like the U.S. or Canada or Great Britain. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But unfortunately, I have to tell you, in the future, you may see a huge spike in just the sheer amount of streaming services we all have to juggle. And unfortunately, I think that's just the reality. Now, go turn the lights out and get back to your